Kenyan national anthem and East African national.
Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
While you're still standing, we'll say our prayer. Almighty God, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor and blessings as your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to leadership positions in this republic. We seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. You may be seated. Honorable Senators, about halfway in the parliamentary term, and this is often the most critical time in defining the legacy of a legislature. It is also a critical time for individual legislators in defining their impact as elected representatives of the people. The theme of this retreat speaks volumes. It is shaping the Senate's legacy, reflections, strategies, and the path forward. We will discuss what our achievements are, what our challenges have been, what we can do differently, whether there are any opportunities we need to seize upon, and to answer a number of questions that would assist us to perform better. I wish to thank the leadership for organizing this retreat, which is very timely. And as I said at the beginning, we will not waste a lot of time. I will invite our leaders to speak to us. But before we do that, I'd like to invite our clerk, Mr. Jeremiah Nyegenye, CBS, to come and address us. Karibu, clerk.
Thank you very much, Session Chair. Right Honorable Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Amason Kingi, Deputy Speaker, Senator Kathuri Murungi, the leadership of the Senate present, Majority Leader, Senator Cheriot, the Minority Leader, Senator Justice Mazayo, the entire leadership of the Senate present, Commissioners of the Parliamentary Service Commission, Honorable Senators present, representation from the Council of Governors, chairpersons of commissions and independent officers present, staff of the Senate, the Fourth Estate. I'm being very elaborate in the protocols because I will be inviting subsequent speakers to ride on the protocol I will have established. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Happy New Year. So you say Happy New Year when you meet a person for the first time, whenever it is. If it is July, it is still Happy New Year because you haven't met them. So I would like to take this opportunity, which we consider to be a great honor and a privilege, to welcome all of you to this Senate midterm assessment and planning retreat for the fourth session. The purpose of this engagement is to make an assessment, evaluate the performance and achievements of the Senate in the first three sessions since the commencement of this 13th Parliament, to take stock of the activities that have been realized so far, the challenges we have encountered, and the opportunities that lie ahead for improvement in the coming session. The midterm of a parliamentary term is often the most critical in shaping the legacy and the output of that parliament. A significant part of the formative years, as we all know, are devoted to learning the ropes, as it were, building working relationships, while the final years, again, as we all know, witness a slowdown in processing of business as the countdown to election shifts the attention of senators. So with the conclusion of the third session, the fourth session presents us with an opportunity for the Senate to build on the momentum of the past year and solidify its legacy through impactful legislative and oversight work. In the third session, we had a number of key developments, some of which include the operationalization of the Senate oversight function, the relocation of senators and committee operations to Bunge Tower, processing of legislative business, including committee activities, relentless advocacy by the Senate for increased allocation of equitable national revenue to the counties. We also had a very low moment, of course, the storming of Parliament by protesters. Now, this planning retreat gives room for senators to reflect on the progress made so far, to address the challenges and map out key priority areas for the fourth session. In achieving this, it is important to recognize the various social changes, increase stakeholder participation, enhance cooperation and collegiality, and advocate for more resource allocation to facilitate the operations of the Senate while also observing austerity measures. I wish to highlight some aspects of the retreat program, which has been carefully curated to speak to things that are close to senators. We will review the performance and output of the Senate in plenary and in committees during the first three sessions. We will look at key issues in devolution and intergovernmental relations for intervention by the Senate. We will review the implementation of the Senate oversight function and how that has fared. We will look at proposed amendments to the Constitution to entrench funds, among them the NGCDF, as well as the Senate Oversight Fund. We will consider the vexed issue of the proposed fourth basis for revenue sharing among county governments that should run us for the years 2025-2026, the financial years 2025-2026, all the way to 2029-2030. We will look at accountability and oversight of resources and experiences from CPAC and CPIC. We will have a conversation on the implementation of health laws and the successes and challenges and possible interventions required. And we will also have a discussion on services and facilities for senators. Finally, we will also interrogate key legislative business priorities for the fourth session. As I conclude, I wish to bring to the attention of the honorable senators that we have invited various government agencies during this event to provide services to senators who may wish to utilize them. At the back of this venue, you will find SHA, the Social Health Authority, for the registration of dependents. You will find the Kenya Revenue Authority, not coming to ask for your taxes, but for you to check your state of compliance with your tax obligations if you wish. You will find the National Transport and Safety Authority, NTSA, for driving license renewal and other services that they provide. I want to take this opportunity to extend our appreciation as a Secretariat to the Speaker of the Senate and the entire leadership and senators for the diligence and commitment that you have displayed in service to the people of our country. And on our part as the administrative arm, we are privileged to continue to serve and to offer the support that we do to enable you to discharge your important constitutional mandates. We thank you and we wish you fruitful deliberations. Asanteni sana.
Can we have a better round of applause for the clerk? Asanteni sana. For the next round of speakers, I'd like to thank you in advance for assisting us to catch up with time. The next speaker is the Senator for Nakuru County. We need to get the visa before we proceed. Thank you. Karibu.
The Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Amason Kingi, the Deputy Speaker, Senator Gathuri Murungi, the leadership of the Senate present, Chairperson, Council of Governors, H.E. Ahmed Abdullahi, Chairperson of Commission and Independent Offices present, the Clerk of the Senate, Honorable Senators present, staff of the Senate, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my present duty to welcome you to the Senate Midterm Assessment and Planning Retreat for the 4th session of the 13th Parliament. It is both an honor and privilege to host this important gathering here in Nakuru County, a place that symbolizes the beauty and diversity of our great nation, Kenya. As we gather here today, we are reminded of the profound responsibility bestowed upon us by the Constitution of Kenya. Article 96 of our Constitution establishes the Senate as a vital institution tasked with representing and protecting the interests of counties and their governments. Over the past 3 sessions, we've worked diligently to fulfill this mandate through registration, representation, and oversight. This retreat provides us with a unique opportunity to reflect on our achievements, address the challenges we have faced, and chart a clear path forward for the 4th session. The midterm period of any parliamentary term is crucially important. It is a time when we must consolidate our gains, strength, our working relationships, and ensure that we leave a lasting legacy. As we approach the final years of this term, we must remain focused and committed to delivering impactful legislative and oversight work that will benefit the people of Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, devolution has been a remarkable journey, one that has fundamentally reshaped the governance landscape of Kenya. It has empowered our counties to exercise greater control over their own affairs, enabled them to design and implement development programs tailored to their specific needs, and brought about a sense of ownership and pride among our people. As senators, we bear the responsibility of safeguarding and advancing the ideas of devolution for the betterment of our communities. Ladies and gentlemen, these great retreats provides a welcome opportunity to engage in thoughtful discussions on several key topics that are central to our work as senators. This will include a review of the Senator's performance and output during the first 3 sessions, which will entail taking stock of our achievements and challenges over the past 3 sessions. I look forward to an in-depth assessment of our role in processing business in both plenary and committee settings. By identifying success, bottlenecks, and lessons learned, we can better understand how to enhance our effectiveness in the fourth session. As we look at the key issues in devolution and intergovernmental relations, I would like to take this opportunity to warmly welcome the Council of Governors, County Assemblies Forum, State Department for Devolution, the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee, the offices of the Auditor General, and control of budget, as well as representatives from various commissions. As the Senate, we can attest to immense contribution that these offices have made in advancing the dream of devolution. I'm hopeful that the meeting of mind as we identify legislative gaps and priority areas for intervention, ensuring that devolution continues to thrive. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm confident that this forum will renew our commitment to our roles as senators, a clear understanding of the challenges we face, and a strategic plan for addressing them. We will leave here a shared vision for the fourth session, a one that is focused on enhancing the Senate's effectiveness in fulfilling its constitutional mandate. As we engage in robust discussions and deliberations during this retreat, let us keep in mind the ultimate goal of devolution is to improve the lives of our people. We must remain focused on the principles of accountability, transparency, and public participation. Our constituencies have entrusted us with their aspirations, and it is our duty to fulfill those aspirations with unwavering dedication and commitment. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, I once again extend my appreciation for choosing Nakuru County. It is a county that is not only blessed with a diverse population, but also with unique man-made and natural geographical sites that are a source of pride for our people. I implore each one of you to take some time out of your busy schedules and experience the breathtaking beauty and rich heritage that our county has to offer. From the magnificent Lake Nakuru National Park, home to an abundance of wildlife, and the famous flamingos, to the awe-inspiring Menengai crater, Okayo Jayandamo, which is currently ranked 7th in the world and contributes at 5 megawatts of clean energy, amounting to 42.2% of the national grid. They are all present an opportunity for exploration and ensure. I will not forget to invite you to exciting WSR Safari Rally 2025 series that will kick off on 20th to 23rd March 2025. For your information, Nakuru County provides the best location and destination for the sports and entertainment event, voted for as the best WRC Safari Rally in the world, courtesy of the International Automobile Federation. In 2022, the WRC Safari Rally recorded a global viewership of about 80 million, and media report from last year's competition still waited. This year, the shakedown will be held at a sleeping Moran in Gilgil sub-county. This is the most exciting part of the event, where 2 cars run side by side. The prize-giving area this year will be held at the Hell's Gate National Park, where the guests of honor will be HE President Dr. William Ruto. Nakuru County indeed has something for everyone. Finally, honorable senators, as we embark on this retreat, let us focus on our duty to ensure that we uphold the principles of devolution, accountability, and transparency, and may our collective efforts further strengthen devolution for the benefit of all Kenyans. Thank you and may God bless you all.
Thank you, Senator Keroche. I now would like to invite the Deputy Minority Leader, Senator Enoch Wambua.
So to God we give all the glory. Honorable Speaker, I will accept the invitation by the clerk to write on the protocols that he established so that I try to save on time. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning. The Speaker, I don't have a written speech, and I like it that way. We are here at a very critical moment in our own career as leaders in the Senate. We must begin to realize, perhaps actually begin to get worried, that we've already done halfway, and the remaining half, colleagues, is much, much shorter than the first half, especially in relation to legislative business. So if there is things that senators wanted to do, please, let's get done with them the shortest time possible, because a lot of time now will be spent on the ground. Mr. Speaker, I will address myself to only two broad issues. One is on warfare issues, and then touch a bit on committees, and that will be done. On the positive side, the first session, the first half, has really been a good time to some extent for the institution of the Senate. Remember, Mr. Speaker, as the clerk said, it is a time that we finally rolled out the oversight fund, which had remained elusive for the longest time. It is the Senate, under your leadership, Mr. Speaker, that has rolled out that fund. Of course, there have been challenges here and there, and I hope that in the fullness of time, then those issues will completely be resolved and we move forward. I've also noted on a positive side that this is the Senate so far that we have witnessed greater visibility for the nominated senators led by Kewasa. The nominated senators this time round have really, really been very visible. Some of us, for some reason, may not have liked what they are doing or the way they are doing it, but give it to them, they've really been visible. And it's a good thing. Continue pushing the limits. In politics, nothing is given to you. You've got to fight for it. Lastly, on the positive side, I think the senators, as a family, we've done well. Honestly, we've done well. As a family, we've done well. I've seen commitment to issues affecting colleagues, be it weddings, be it when barriers, and as we speak, you know, our colleague Senator Kenyua has lost his dad. So in the same spirit that we have stood with other colleagues, let's remember to stand with Senator Kenyua. And I must tell you, this Senate so far, in terms of standing with your colleagues, you guys have done very well. Congratulations. The Speaker, on the dark side, because there is always a dark side to everything, I think in terms of travel so far, we have sunk to the lowest. And if we don't confront these issues as senators in this sitting, then we would just be playing games with ourselves. This is the first time that I have seen senators being bundled into vehicles to travel to as far as Dodoma for official engagement, left there, and then cars will come much later to pick them. Those are issues that we want to discuss when that time comes. It's about you. It's about your warfare. In terms of committees, I must also admit, whereas there are some committees that have done pretty well, truth be told, we're not doing very well overall in terms of committees. There are committees whose businesses are literally stuck. There's one committee that I don't want to mention, the Speaker. We have more than 200 pending statements. And I wonder how much time really whether we even have time to process that business, and seeing as it were that more business is also piling up. On the relationship between senators and the Secretariat, good people, again, this is a Senate that I have seen physical confrontation between Secretariat and members. We will need to deal with that, because from where I sit, the gap was always that the distance was always there. People always kept their distance. But this time round, I've seen ugly confrontations. While we're here, let's deal with that. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, I have heard from my colleagues, these ones who are seated here. In fact, I see them looking at me and wondering, are you going to be completing without saying that thing? No, I'm saying it. The Speaker, while we are here, and I know you have guests, these people, these leaders, these senators, would want to have a very candid conversation with the office of the Speaker in terms of where the Speaker stands, where members of the Speaker's panel stand, especially on issues that are divisive. Because there are issues that are divisive, there are issues where we can't build consensus, and that's a point that we must look up to the Speaker to give direction to the House. The Speaker, there's an ease among members that perhaps the office of the Speaker is taking directions that leave a section of the House feeling like they have no father. So those are issues that we'll discuss here. Lastly, members, we will have done ourselves great disservice. We'll have done this country great disservice if we meet here. When the National Assembly met, I think for them, they ran away with the Shah conversation, national conversation on this Shah. I hear the Shah is here. While we are here, and I want to thank Senator Asige, because she tried to push for a special sitting of the Senate to discuss the whole issue of abductions. That did not happen, but we are here. We cannot run away from it. Let's deal with these issues. We are leaders. Let's give direction in this country. And to God again, we continue to give glory. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
A better applause, especially for the good bits that we have done as the Senate. No, you actually commended us for doing well in some, and I'm saying we need to clap for ourselves in regard to that. But everything you said is absolutely important. Next speaker is Senator Justice Retired Stewart Mazayo. Karibu sana, Senator.
Asante sana dadangu Muma, Senator. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Speaker, Amazon Jeffer Kingi, my dear colleagues, all protocols observed. Good morning and Happy New Year. It is with great privilege and honor that I am happy to see you again after a very busy schedule of Christmas and New Year and many other activities. Our retreat today embodies the theme Shaping the Senate's Legacy, Strategy, and the Path Forward, a critical reflection of our constitutional journey and a pivotal opportunity for strategic planning as we approach the fourth session of the Senate. As we review our work during this midterm assessment, we must ask ourselves, have we lived up to the expectations of the Kenyans? Are we effectively representing the interests of the counties and their citizens? As we hold the executive to account, are we holding the executive to account, ensuring that the public resources are used wisely and that the principles of equity and fairness are upheld in every decision that we make? The answers to these questions will help inform our planning and the fourth session. In the last 2.5 years, we have made strides in fulfilling these responsibilities and advocating for more allocation of funds to our respective counties. And we have debated crucial bills such as the Political Parties Amendment Bill, the Election Amendment Bill, and the Election Offences Amendment Bill, which will pave way for electoral justice in our country, which is an emotive topic. The work of the Senate is both dynamic and demanding, and it is critical that we constantly assess the impact of our intervention on national policy, the devolution process, and the lives of the citizens who entrust us with their votes. The implementation of devolution is still faced with persistent challenges, such as counties that continue to grapple with resource allocation, functional transfers, and establishing robust intergovernmental mechanism. Our role is critical in bridging these gaps, providing legislative oversight and ensuring that constitutional promises of devolution remain vibrant and transformative. Our administrative achievements include the successful allocation to the Bunge Tower and operationalization of the Senate oversight function, demonstrate our commitment to institutional development. Yet these are not endpoints, but stepping stones towards more comprehensive institutional transformation. This retreat, therefore, provides a unique space for us to engage in honest reflection, to celebrate our success, and equally importantly, to acknowledge and address the challenges that lie before us. I urge each one of you to engage fully in the discussion that will unfold, bearing in mind the constitutional mandate we have been entrusted with. I have no doubt that the outcome of this retreat will play a significant role in shaping the direction of the Senate in this coming session. Let us use this time to reflect deeply, to plan strategically, and to strengthen the work that we do for the betterment of all Kenyans, notwithstanding our political affiliations. I want to say this to conclude. that we have had many challenges since in the last session. And more specifically, I want to say some of these challenges are on the side of finances. It is very sad that we note most of our trips that we have done. Some of us have gone on these trips to claim later, or we get refunded of our money. And it is very sad also to realize that I've been in this parliament since when we started the Senate in 2013. I've never witnessed a situation where a senator uses his own money to purchase a ticket and goes and claims later. We never had this in 2013. We never had this in 2017. But now we are having it here, this session from 2022. And I think it's a very, very bad precedent. We shouldn't go that direction. And these are among the issues that I think we need to talk. If there's no money, then there's no need to make a trip. We have sessions where senators, not one, not two, are bundled in buses and being taken to meeting sites like in Dodoma, in Tanzania. Then they're bundled there. And they're senators. So that they can take care of themselves there, and maybe the bus will go back to pick them up later. And they spend 10 hours on the road. This is a shame. It's not something to be proud of, that you're a senator. I've never seen a member of National Assembly traveling in, being grouped together, put in a bus, and travel all the way to Tanzania in Dodoma. It's a shame. It's a shame to the Senate. And therefore, I think, truth be told, that we need to do better than that. We need to do better than that. I believe we shall be discussing more, and I know you have written to me. I've got them on my phone, with so many issues that we need to discuss. So I think this session will accord us the right opportunity to discuss some of these issues that are happening now, which are very strange to people who are honorable members of the Senate. I thank you so much.
A better applause for the Senate Minority Leader. As I invite the Senate Majority Leader, I'd like to inform us of a slight change of the program. We will not be breaking for tea, so the people who are expected to move into second session, please be ready. For us to save on time, we will actually move on to the next session, and we will do the photo session after lunch, or just before lunch. The teas are outside, served on both sides of the tent, and I would like to encourage us to gently, if we need a cup of tea or coffee, gently slip out and come back with your cup of tea. I'd like to advise those of the opposite gender, it is possible to sip a cup of coffee. I can see Sifuna doing it, and listen, so you can multitask. So I want to encourage you to do that gently, don't disrupt, so that we are able to manage all the tasks simultaneously. So I'd like to invite Majority Leader Senator Aaron Cheruyot to come and address us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine. When you said Senator Sifuna is sipping his tea gently,
I thought perhaps that's the only thing he can do gently. The Speaker of the Senate and all the leaders that are here, the Senate family, let me ride on the already established protocols. I beg to greet you all good morning. Mr. Speaker, I too have a written speech, but allow me to speak out of my heart and abandon the drafted speech so that I get to reflect properly on the meaning and the placing of this gathering in this beautiful city of Naivasha. Mr. Speaker, sir, driving down to Naivasha this morning, I reflected on the Senate and the journey that has been for the last few years of the existence of this Senate, and thought about its place and the reason for existence. Mr. Speaker, I thought deeply and remembered that we could not perhaps have chosen a more apt location to have our conference than in this city of Naivasha, which is a home city of devolution, because when the 10th Parliament, midway through their term, just like us, retreated here, then as a unicameral house, to put the final coat of paint on our constitution, it was in this very city, perhaps in a hotel not very far from here, that they saw it fit that they grant the Senate of the Republic of Kenya the powers to nurture and uphold, defend, and ensure that devolution succeeds in Kenya. And therefore, reflecting from here, I hope, Mr. Speaker, that by the time we leave here, we will have asked ourselves whether we have lived up to the expectations of those gallant men and women who sat down in this city and saw that Kenya deserves perhaps what is arguably the best gift that this country has ever bequeathed itself since independence, in the form of devolution. Colleagues and the Senate family as a whole, I asked myself and would wish to challenge you into a reflection and perhaps some thought on who would you, if you're granted an opportunity, and ask who would you vote as perhaps the father or the mother of devolution in modern day Kenya. And I thought about many eminent Kenyans, people who made contribution. Of course, many politicians like myself would wish to claim that prize and think about we champion for this constitution and things like that. But my wandering post, when I thought about the life of one patriot, Dr. Crispin Odhiambo Bai, who paid with his own dear life for devolution to take root actually in this republic. When that gentleman chaired the subcommittee on devolution in the constitution-making process, it was because of his very firm views and his unwavering stand on what devolution portended for this republic that he finally breathed his last, because there are many people who did not wish to see devolution and the success and the promise that it had for this republic. There are many people who believed that we should have remained as one state where up to date in 2025 we'd still be haggling over only one budget. That is commitment. And I thought that perhaps we as the Fourth Senate must pray to God so deeply that he grants us that level of commitment to devolution and the desire to have it to succeed, so that in each of our working day, honorable speakers, members of staff and colleagues, we live up to that depth of commitment and belief in devolution to see it succeed in all our 47 devolved units. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, we as a family, we have a very difficult task ahead of us, because each and every day we receive complaints from Kenyans who remind us that as a Senate, it is our primary responsibility and duty to ensure that devolution succeeds. And I will not engage you in a discussion of whether it is succeeding or failing, because you know the answers. You know what we have done well,
and the areas that we need to improve on. The only thing that I pray for, Mr. Speaker, is a level of commitment that that patriot had in seeing that devolution succeeds in our country. Because, Mr. Speaker, each day when you drive down across the length and the breadth of this republic, you see the successes of devolution, but you also see the opportunity cost that continues to be lost in the form of reports that come to our house from CPIC, PAC, petitions, impeachment hearings, and you hear the gory stories of the things that goes on in our counties and ask yourself, can the Senate really stand up for devolution and think and reflect deeply that there are other Kenyans who are paid, including with their life, and say that while we may not necessarily have to pay with our life, what is it that we as an institution, Mr. Speaker, can do to ensure that 10, 15, 20 years down the line, people look back and say it was indeed in the Fourth Senate that devolution finally found its place and cruised, succeeded, and set up this country on a trajectory of, on the trajectory of prosperity. Therefore, that's my call to reflection to all of you, colleague senators, this morning. I thank you, and may God bless you as we begin this conference.
Thank you so much, Senate Majority Leader. I'm so glad that you remembered Dr. Mbai, and I personally hope that this can be one of the Senates that can truly be focused about delivering the Article 6 mandate of delivering our consultative and cooperative devolved governance for delivery of services to the people of Kenya. I now wish to invite our Deputy Speaker, Senator Kathuri Murungi, to make his remarks, after which you will invite the Speaker to make his remarks. Thank you.
Right Honorable Speaker of the Senate, my colleagues, senators and leaders, and our very able staff, good morning. I want to just to make two remarks because a lot have been said. The written speeches are almost the same, so I don't want to dwell on that. Actually, what was given by Senator for Nakuru County, Senator Tabitha, was sufficient enough to cover the whole session on these introductions. So she did it for us. I don't know even what the Honorable Speaker will be able to. That was a summary of everything. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to touch on two issues. As your deputy, on the plenary management, the conduct of our senators, and myself also included. So I want to first thank you most sincerely for managing our house very well and actually instilling discipline in the house. So far, so good, and I want to thank you. As your assistant, I want to comment on that, and also to thank the senators. We started in, with some hiccups, but now I think we are on a very good highway, Senator Sifuna. We're on a highway that we're able to talk to one another and to discuss issues, including those which were raised by my colleague, Deputy Minority Leader, on controversial issues when we are debating. Number two is the management and performance of our committees, where I chair as the liaison chairperson. Let me say the issues that are raised by the Minority Leader and by Senator Enoch Wambua touches on the performance of the committees. It is through going to the committee work that maybe members travel in one vehicle. It is through doing all those things, committee work. And we have a full session which we will be able to bring everything, all the challenges, yeah, and the strengths, the challenges, lessons learned, and maybe way forward where we want to be in the next 2.5 years. So I think that is a full session where we'll be able to converse and to discuss on all those matters touching on the committee. So I don't want to dwell on that at this level. So I want to inform the House that the members, the senators who are here are more than 2 thanks, Honorable Speaker. I want to thank the members. This is the first meeting this year, and we have almost 2/3 of the members present. So naomba tafadhali tuweke mkono vizuri, tupigie senators makofi ya kilo, sio bando. Anza hiyo 1 2 3, another one. Thank you, senators, for this commitment. I know Senate is a house of really able men and women who knows their work, and that is why they are here, so that we start in a good footing. Na ile mambo tutaongea hapa leo, naambia tafadhali toka kidogo, wacha tulie sasa tukiwa wazee, si ndio? Namna hiyo hata huko Kericho. Yes. So sasa siwezi kulia sasa. Niko na mambo mengi ya kusema, lakini sitaki kusema sasa. We will have that opportunity to do that. Therefore, it is now my singular duty to invite my boss, the Right Honorable Speaker of the Senate, to give his remarks. Karibu Bwana Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Kathuri. Now, honorable senators, members of the Secretariat, good morning. Allow me to make my remarks, and just like the DS has said, you will note some bit of repetition. I don't know whether we only have one speech right in the entire Senate, so. But nevertheless, I have to do this. Very short remarks, just like my height. My remarks are equally short. Honorable Senators, the midterm assessment and planning retreat for the 4th session of the 13th Parliament is not just another gathering. It is an important moment in our legislative journey as senators. Indeed, it is an opportunity to reflect, strategize, and chart the path forward. Today, we stand at the halfway mark of our term, a point where history tells us that legislators either accelerate the impact or fall into inertia. The question before us is therefore crystal clear. What will the Senate be remembered for? Will we be remembered as a Senate that strengthened devolution, upheld accountability, and champion the interests of counties? Or will we be remembered as a Senate that let opportunities slip away? Our role, as enshrined in Article 96 of the Constitution, is clear. We are here to represent, protect, and defend the interests of counties and the governments. But beyond the constitutional text, our role is a calling, a duty to uphold the promise of devolution and to ensure that the dream of self-governance of our counties is not just a legal provision, but a lived reality for all Kenyans. For the past 3 sessions, we have passed critical legislation to guide county financing and intergovernmental relations. We have exercised oversight through plenary and committees. We have facilitated devolution by engaging county governments, the Council of Governors, and key stakeholders in the devolution space. But as we reflect on these successes, we must also acknowledge the gaps, shortfalls, challenges, and unfinished business. This 4th session presents us with a chance to solidify our legacy. The work we do now will determine how effectively the Senate will discharge its mandate, not just in this Parliament, but for years to come. Honorable Senators, devolution must be practical. It is about the roads we build, the hospitals we equip, the schools we improve, and the lives we change. That is why in this retreat, we must focus on legislation that directly impacts counties, especially financing and revenue sharing. The upcoming debate on the 4th basis for revenue allocation should not just be another routine discussion. It should be a defining moment in how resources are distributed fairly and equitably across the counties. Strengthening Senate oversight by ensuring that devolution funds are used effectively and that corruption and misgovernance do not thrive in our county corridors. Enhancing intergovernmental relations, because the strength of our democracy is primarily determined by how effective our institutions work independently but in harmony. Dear colleagues, our work has not been without obstacles. We have seen instances where critical legislation affecting counties lags in implementation. We have also seen the budget allocation for the Senate remaining a contentious issue, adversely impacting on committees' work. We've also seen county governments continue to struggle with absorption of funds, late disbursements leading to disruption of essential services. The public perception of the Senate also needs strengthening. We must communicate our constitutional mandate and impact more effectively. As part of our renewed commitment and dedication to make the fourth session more impactful and rewarding, we must agree to slay the dragon of absenteeism, which, as witnessed in the past sessions, so often denied the House the requisite quorum to conduct its business. The same monster must be detrimental to key sessions, such as question time, statement time, in effect, denying Kenyans the opportunity to get answers to pressing governance issues. We must agree to put an end to this habit going forward. As we sit and engage over the next 2 days, let us remember this. They're not just debating policy. We are involved in the business of shaping Kenya's future. We must leave this treaty with clear resolutions. We must ensure that our deliberations translate into tangible action. We are duty-bound to sharpen our focus and undertake our responsibilities with renewed energy and commitment. The Senate is often referred as the upper house, but let us not allow ourselves to be seen as a ceremonial institution. We must continue to prove that we are a house of action, a results-oriented house, a house that is befitting of the high public regard and respect it commands and is responsive. Honorable Senators, let us make no mistake about what this retreat is and isn't. This retreat is not just about reflection. It is about reaffirming a commitment to the successful implementation of devolution and improved governance in our county governments. It is not just about discussion. It is about determining and prioritizing the laws and policies that will fundamentally shape Kenya for years to come. It is not just about the Senate of today. It is about our collective resolve to shape the legacy we will leave for prosperity. As Speaker of the Senate, I pledge my commitment to fostering unity, efficiency, and progress in our work. And on behalf of the Presidium, I pledge nothing short of impartiality and fairness in discharge of our duties as the Presidium. The Senate's success is Kenya's success. The strength of devolution is the strength of our democracy. Let us seize this opportunity to be on the right side of developmental history. In view of the weighty responsibilities in our hands, I call all of us to fully dedicate these 2 days to this retreat and participate in on the sessions till to the very end in order to maximize the envisaged gains and justify investments in this activity. We would wish to see full house for all the sessions. And I know that a request had been made that because of your other busy schedules, you'd wish to leave tomorrow, which is quite in order. But that will depend on whether we fully handle the business before us. If you're able to discharge and handle the business before us, even at the end of today, I may release you. So it's up to you to make sure that what has brought us here is handled effectively before we go back to our respective stations. With these few remarks, I declare this retreat officially open. And I wish all of us fruitful deliberations. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Better applause for the speaker, please. I now wish to invite the speaker and the leaders on the podium to take your seats in the plenary, and to invite Senator Sigei, chair for the next session, and the panelists for session 2 to come on stage. Thank you very much.
Case or discussion on the road maintenance levy fund RMF, issues relating to the timely disbursement of funds to the counties, and also matters relating to laws that claw back on devolution, a strong accountability mechanism with respect to operations of county governments, laws that empower key devolution stakeholders that are instrumental in the success of devolved governments, amongst others. The purpose for this session is to delve into critical issues impacting devolution and intergovernmental relations, identifying legislative gaps and key priority areas that require policy and legislative interventions. Some of the desired outcomes of the deliberations here. What do we want to achieve in all this? One, to enhance and strengthening of collaboration between all key stakeholders in the devolution space. We also want to identify key issues that require urgent legislative intervention by the Senate, of course. We want to strategize on how to enhance consultation and cooperation between the national government and the county governments, and mapping a way forward for the 4th session of the Senate. We have before us a panel constituting key stakeholders in the devolution, including the chairperson of the devolution. We have the vice chair of the devolution committee in the Senate. We have the State Department represented by the PS. We have the Council of Governors represented by the Governor of Nandi County, His Excellency Sang. We have the County Assemblies Forum, and we do have the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee, IGRTC, represented by their chair. Now, I was trying to see how to save time. And when I look at the bios of the very honorable and esteemed panel here, each of them might take quite a while, so I don't know what. I think, let me skip that, because we know each one of you is very, each one of them has credentials enough, and you know them, okay? So I guess so that we save on time, I'll jump on the bios so that we get time for the main issues. So because we have the representative of the COG chair, I think I'll put the questions like in a set of 2, 3, so that when you handle holistically. So we, Governor, we needed to understand the delayed disbursement of funds has been a persistent challenge for counties. If you can just briefly tell us the effect of that, and also what measures would you as COG recommend, including legislative or policy interventions, to ensure funds are disbursed in a timely and adequate manner. I know maybe tomorrow we will have COB here. I am hoping Treasury will be here so that they can get some of these concerns and maybe time to respond to us. So we also need to understand from you, you had the summit the other day on the 16th of December, and resolve that all devolved functions and attendant resources be transferred commencing July 25th. Do counties currently have the capacity to handle these functions effectively? And what steps are county governments taking to ensure preparedness and seamless uptake of those functions, particularly in terms of infrastructure, human resource, and systems, you know? And what additional support is needed to ensure counties fully deliver on these mandates? What is your view on the low expenditure on the development allocations in counties? Where are the gaps concerning these allocations and this expenditure, and how can these issues be addressed? So I'll give 5 minutes to the governor to try and sum up, you know, all those issues together. Karibu Governor. Tupigie Governor makofi. Asante. Thank you.
Session, I can do it from here.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Though maybe members would have preferred seeing you here. Yeah.
So thank you very much, Sessional Chair, Right Honorable Speaker Kingi, the leadership of the Senate, Honorable Senators, fellow panelists, good afternoon. And since we are meeting for the first time this year with quite a number of you, Happy New Year. I am here on behalf of the chair of COG, Governor Wajir. As you might all be aware, he is hosting the president in his county, and therefore he sent me on his behalf. So I'm here on behalf of the chair. Apologies from him. He would have wished to be here. Quite a number of issues that have been raised. One, we want to, as COG, we want to appreciate the support that we have received from you as senators, I know, or as a Senate. I know this is your mid-term review. We would want to say as COG, we appreciate the support that you have given us and that you have given the devolution family. Secondly, two major issues that have been raised by the chair. And I want to address those two issues, but also I have two other additional issues that I would want to raise. The effect of delayed disbursements and the issue of the low expenditure on development. But a more sticky issue is the issue of unbundling of functions and, you know, attendant resources and the preparedness of counties to deal with this. Chair, if you look at the topic, for us, we understood you to be telling us what are those areas that we think the Senate should give a more keen interest, you know, in matters that would then support county governments. For us, the first one is really division of revenue. You know that one of the key functions of the Senate is to support counties in terms of resource allocation. We think that, Chair, there is a gap in terms of the discussions around division of revenue. That in most cases, these figures that are being given out, you know, in every discussion, you would have CRA giving a figure, you would have COG giving a figure, you would have the Senate having a figure, and you would have National Treasury giving a figure. Some of those figures are worlds apart. Like our figure would be 50 billion beyond the National Assembly, the National Treasury figure. The Senate figure would be somewhere in between. Sometimes the CRA figure would be somewhere in between. So the question is, why are we having this difference in terms of the figures that is being proposed by the various stakeholders whose responsibility is to look into this matter? It then tells you that there is a challenge with regard to the parameters being used to decide on the division of revenue. I am thinking that what COG is asking us is that we must find a scientific way of arriving at that figure. It would be okay to have a range of look into what is these parameters that we should be able to use in gauging the resources that should go to counties. So that I think there is still some work that needs to be done there. We talk as COG, we know the constitutional threshold is 15%. Even a discussion around the 15%, if you look at what Senate says about what allocation has been given vis-a-vis what National Treasury and National Assembly says, they give different percentages, to mean that even in terms of the threshold alone, we may not be able to agree on those thresholds. So we think that an objective criteria of how to arrive at the division of revenue and the resources to be allocated to counties is critical. And for us, one of the parameters that we would just throw in is actually a clear demarcation and costing of functions. If we had clearly demarcated all the functions and costed all the functions, it would be a mathematical formula of just saying, these are the functions, we have costed these functions, the total amount of resources would be this amount, and I don't think that we can be able to engage at that point. But your eyes must be keen around the fourth basis to ensure equity on the same. Two issues that are coming up, or current issues, the bursary question. We agree that maybe this is the only function that county governments are being accused or are being flashed out as trying to attempt to do a national government function. Maybe the only one. Because they are now telling us about, the secondary education and primary, secondary, and the university. This is one of those areas that, for the first time, county governments are being told you are almost overstepping your mandate and getting into a mandate of the national government. What we would be asking is that the Constitution anticipated a situation where one level of government could do or could perform the function of another level of government. It has provided for a mechanism around the doing of an MOU or an agreement of it takes different forms, but it is an agreement. What we would be asking the Senate to do is maybe you need to provide some bit of guidance around that. What forum and what platform? You cannot, I don't think that it would make sense for Nandi County to go to the Ministry of Education and develop an agreement as Nandi County with Ministry of Education, and then Migori does the same, and then Kiambu does the same, and all the others. I think maybe we need to have some better legal framework that would support that arrangement where one form of government can undertake the mandate of another level of government, but with some level of agreement, but then you need to provide us with some bit of guidelines. I know we have done something with health, on different programs. We have also done something around agriculture and did some bit of intergovernmental participatory agreements, a few of them. But I think now that moving into the future, you are likely to see a lot of this happening. Some legal framework on what can be done, how it should be done is important. But more importantly is the general principle that if county governments are being told to sign an agreement with national government on the implementation of bursaries for primary, secondary, and university, why shouldn't national government be forced to sign also an agreement when they are implementing waterworks, agriculture programs, and health programs? Why should it be one-sided? So we have been stopped by Controller of Budget from disbursing bursaries. But they are allowing government agencies, ministries, and departments to continue to draw national resources for functions that are already transferred. Why don't we look at it so that the law should cut both ways? If you are stopping us from doing this and asking us to provide an agreement, why don't you also insist that national government should also provide agreement for any national government, county government mandate that they are undertaking? I think that is also so we could use this crisis to set the principle right so that we can be able to agree on that. Finally, Chair, because I know time is not on our side, there are pending legislations that are before the Senate on critical areas. Coffee legislation, tea legislation, the Cooperatives Amendment Bill legislation. So there are a number of legislations. And if you do an audit of most of the legislations that are now being undertaken in the National Assembly and also in the Senate, a lot of them are clawing back on devolved functions. So we think that there is need for you to have a keen eye so that out of legislative processes that are ongoing, we do not allow some of the devolved functions to be clawed back as a matter of fact. And we appreciate that on many occasions you have invited us before you in any matter that is before the Senate. We think that we can still enhance that engagement And we hope that when we make our presentations, that you give it favorable consideration like you have done in many areas. I will not end my remarks before I thank you on behalf of the Council of Governors on this matter of the legislation that came before you on anchoring COG Secretariat into law. It's a matter that we have raised before. I know initially I was seated where you are seated a few years back. At some point we did not really come to appreciate the role and the difference in terms of the role that is being done by IGRTC and the role of the COG. I can tell you for a fact that if the work done by the Secretariat of COG in dealing with a lot of these engagements that we have done with national government, with development partners, it would not have been possible if we didn't have a functional and strong secretariat to support that process. So we want to thank you for the law that you processed. The matter is now before the National Assembly. If they agree with you in totality, then the matter, but if there are issues that will be raised by the National Assembly, we would still humbly request that you undertake or you conclude that piece of legislation so that county governments can be supported. I thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know we are trying to compete with time, but I have one question that I would want the governor to maybe respond because members are interested to know. We have seen quite a bit of acrimonious relationship between the governors and their deputies. We need to know if you can clarify what is the big problem, what is causing this strenuous relationship, and what steps the Council of Governors is taking to alleviate this tension between the governors and the deputies, as the Senate also takes legislative route to resolve this problem. Just handle that one, then we go back to the other panelists.
That's a very difficult one to be answered by a governor because they are part of, in that context, we are, in most cases, we are seen as the perpetrators. You guys, as the senators, have done, first to say that a majority of county governments or county governors and their deputies are working well. A majority. It's only that a few that come out, the situation gets on the extreme. So you have one extreme of generally about 30 counties that have no major issues, but then you have another almost 15 or so that may be so serious. I am not sure that it is possible to legislate a relationship. It's difficult, because that arrangement, and it makes a lot of sense. Sometimes we hear we need to give part of what that conflict is because deputies have no defined roles. Some of them, some of the legislation says, why don't you assign them as one of the dockets? I will give the example of my county. I sit down with my deputy and I told, do you want to be one of the CECs? I have no problem. Of course, that reduces also the deputy into the level of CECs, and that when I have to demand accountability and things from, timelines and everything, then she has to sit into that. So there are difficulties around it. We will continue trying to build some level of engagement between ourselves and our deputies at that level. But I think on this matter, we will defer more to the wisdom of this house. You have invited counties that have had those issues. You have sat down with them. You can be able to see and through your wisdom establish who is on the wrong. And in this case, some of those wrongs are not legal. They are not legal issues. They are actually issues of, it's a relationship issue. I have no idea how we can do it, but we defer to your wisdom.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm just thinking aloud. Maybe as you say, it's difficult to legislate on relationships. But I'm just thinking, in the spirit of collective responsibility, if we can pair both the governor and the deputy, and should the governor fail, they both go with the deputy, or the other way around, you all go, you know, so that we have a new pair, so that one stops undermining the other. Anyway, that's something for the House to think about. I'm going to call, not in any particular order, the panelists, and I will leave the State Department to be the last as the mother of, the mother ministry. I'll let you be the last. So I'm inviting the deputy chair, the vice chair of the devolution committee, and this will be my 1-2 questions to you, so that you just guide also the discussion. What key legislative interventions is the Senate or is the committee on devolution prioritizing to address challenges in the intergovernmental relations, oversight and legislation to ensure the success of devolution? As an essential committee in safeguarding devolution and enhancing intergovernmental relations, what are some of the major issues facing devolution that are encountered when handling legislative business and oversight at the committee level, and when considering intergovernmental and intergovernmental and intragovernmental relations? And then what are the strategies that you would recommend to ensure stronger collaboration between the Senate, the county governments, and other key stakeholders in the devolution space? And the steps you would, that the committee, and by extension the Senate, is taking towards addressing conflict resolution between the national government and county governments, and the relationship between county governments and the conflicts that arise within county governments. Vice Chair? There's a mic there.
Thank you so much, Session Chair. On the first question about the legislative agenda under consideration by the Devolution Committee, we have a number of bills. We have the County Boundaries Bill, which we are processing. We have the County Assemblies Services Amendment Bill. We have the County Government Amendment Bill. We have the Intergovernmental Relations Amendment Bill, under which we are anchoring the COG Secretariat said, actually trying to reassign mandate among different intergovernmental actors, including the COG, the IGRTC, and even the CAF. And then we have a number of legislation that we've recommended to the Senate to actually review, and we submitted the first batch of different sectoral laws that pre-existed the 2010 Constitution, but which have never been aligned to the Constitution. And it's an issue we've had, as a committee, raised with the Senate. We feel is a task that was given to IGRTC. It's a task that the law reform has been working on, but we think as Senate, as the primary duty bearers of the function of legislation, 15 years on, if this, and this is about 10 years on for these institutions, if they have been incapable of actually aligning all the laws that pre-existed the 2010 Constitution to the Constitution, then we are asking that all the resources that have been put to these laws be given to the Senate so that the Senate can actually coordinate those legislative functions. Your Excellency, you'll agree with us that I think we can't hold on any longer. It is one of the things we raised with IGRTC when we came to office, when we started over a year ago as Devolution Committee. and we were actually assured that the amendments of these laws had actually been finalized. Every time we would be told, we are handing them over to you in a month. We are now 2.5 years down the road. Those laws have not been handed to us. I don't know any jurisdiction in the world that 15 years later has not aligned its laws to the Constitution. I think we are in serious breach, and we need to work on this. And because of this breach, we actually have one of the problems that we are having. We have some of these laws are the laws that established institutions with mandates that simultaneously are held by the county governments. You will all recall the Abdikadir report, which was one of the exercises that was done post-2010 to review the institutions, particularly parastatals, that needed to be aligned to the new devolved governance system. And that report has not been implemented. And I think the latest we saw was the Gazette notice by IGRTC. And the law is, as you're aware, Your Excellency, is that once you move a function, the funds to that function must be brought down to the counties. So it should be the view, and I think the Senate and the Devolution Committee will be advising the Senate, that funds that were held for the delivery of functions by these parastatals should not be conditional grants. They should actually be additional part of the revenue, part of the equitable share that goes to counties as a result of the costing of those functions. So once you cost the function of library, the requirement is that the funds that were implementing that function should go to the level of government that is holding those functions. And
if you can sum up, because we know the committee and what it's doing, we want to listen to the visitors more, kindly.
Can I finalize? This is a very important issue. Beyond the Gazette notice, you will have seen that the cabinet actually made a decision on winding up some parastatals. Chair, please allow me to raise this issue because the Senate needs to address it. Among the organizations that were decided to be departments within ministries are the same organizations that IGRTC has gazetted as requiring to be wound up. And in my view, that's another mortal sin. So instead of Kura being wound up, it is being said Kura should now be a department of the ministry. That is actually taking the function that Kura is carrying out and giving it to national government. That is an even bigger sin. So that is an issue that we must also, as the Senate, scrutinize to find out what the ministry has done in order to advise properly on this issue. And it's an issue that both COG and the Senate need to actually address. Now, on issues of strengthening the intergovernmental relations, I would hope that the department on devolution within the Deputy President's office, and I am hopeful because the Deputy President is a former senator, somebody who actually understands devolution. I would hope that they can actually assist in the national government actors understanding that Article 6 on consultation and cooperation was not about competition. It was actually about coming together, coming up with these intergovernmental agreements and implementing functions in a way that is not controversial. Just allow me to raise an issue on the issue of bursaries. Governor, the requirement under the intergovernmental relations provisions of the Constitution is that once you sign an agreement, the funds that should be, if you are handing over your function to the national government to implement it for you, you must actually surrender the funds for which you are going to implement that function. So even if you sign an agreement with the national government, the funds that you would deploy to bursaries cannot be funds from the equitable share. It must be the national government giving you funds, conditional grants, ceding that function to you and giving you the functions, the fund for which you can actually implement. So you will not be able to say that you'll continue to take monies from the equitable share that should actually be going to the devolved functions and deploy that money towards the national government. I think there are so many things I've left. I'm under pressure. Thank you very much.
Sorry. I'm really sorry, Chair. I'm very sorry you have tried. I want to give like 2 minutes to the representative of CAF, the County Assemblies Forum, to give us the challenges that the county assemblies are facing, what the Senate can do, your relationship with executive county governments, the issue of ceilings for county assembly recurrent expenditure. Let me give you 3 minutes to do that.
Thank you, Sessional Chair, Speaker, the leadership, honorable senators, your staff, and my colleagues at the panel. Wow, I stand in on behalf of programs that are talking about the chair of CAF who recently migrated to national government, standing here for the vice chair, who's the speaker of Machakos, who wasn't able to make speaker and choose here. My name is Chege Moura. I'm the Secretary General of the County Assemblies Forum. Very quickly on the key issues, maybe challenges. Let me start from a point of thanking the Senate, the Intergovernmental Devolution Committee that has handled the anchorage of CAF. We are on the same bus with COG and IGRTC, and you've been able to pass it, and now it's at the national level. I think that is a big step in terms of answering the question of how to address the disputes between the various intergovernmental agencies. Two, and very importantly, let me also laud Speaker Gathuri's, Deputy Speaker Gathuri's law on financial autonomy, which is in second reading, I'm told, is also done. I also want to convey a lot of thanks to you, because that by itself will also reduce a lot of challenges, Sessional Chair, between the counties, between the wars around the executive and the legislatures at the county level, because all our fights are usually around finances, whether it's Ward Development Fund, whether it's bursary funds, whether it's ceilings. So that will help us so that we stop queuing at the CEC Finances office, have our work plans go through a CEC Finance, taken to the COB, and then of course inflate the request so that the COB can reject it because there is no enough funds in CRA. So we want a clear channel. Once you'll be doing maybe the regulations around that law, we'd also be requesting Senate as now a way forward. You come up with a formula so that of the shareable revenue, what is going to the executive, what is going to the assemblies, so that at every disbursement from the National Treasury or own source, we know this is what we have and this is what we can be able to plan ourselves for the year end. The reason why the ceilings issue arise, the biggest challenge is because of the pending bills that roll over. Because as you end the financial year, everything that was supposed to be, procured is thrown in there, and because of that hectic jam, it jumps over the following year. And so you now have to justify why it's a pending bill. If it's a pending bill, then it was not factored in the next financial year, so it ends up being a ceiling. We have to overstep the ceilings as they were set up for the next financial year. And so for me, the biggest antidote for this is to ensure that we get the financial autonomy in place. Number two, Senate comes up with a proper mechanism of who gets what, and at every disbursement, it be made so that by the fourth quarter, we are done, we are not going. I think it will reduce a lot of fights we have. Finally, on the issue of ceilings again, I think it's PFM number 35, regulations 35 of 2015. Article 25F, if I'm not wrong, talks about what the Senate put as the ceilings for that should go to the assemblies, which is at 7% or twice the amount of personal emoluments that goes to the county assemblies, whichever is lower. Now, whichever arithmetic you do, even at CRA itself, that money is never enough because you're just looking at slightly over salaries. Your oversight role is going to be enhanced if the county assemblies are able to stand and oversight at that primary level. And so I think as another way forward, maybe you need to look at those regulations and then see what are the bottlenecks that make us become stooges to the executive because we just want to survive. And I'm happy that there's so many former MCAs who happen to be in the House. And of course, being a House of Wisdom, this is something that you'll be able to understand very well. Finally, two final requests so that I am still within your 3 minutes. The county assemblies, all of them has a special seat for the senator. Please visit our assemblies, make it a habit to show up because it gives us a direction of what the thinking of Senate is, number one. And then number two, it removes the big man syndrome. Saizi yake anakuja and also is able to inject at a certain level and we're able to pick it up from there. And very importantly, you are also able to appraise yourself. Why are we having the challenges we're having? I'm the chair Public Accounts Committee in Nairobi. When I got in, there were like 30 pending reports, you know. And so when we are trying to align ourselves with the PAC Senate, when they're calling in Nairobi, we are so far, you actually look like you're ahead of us. And then in terms of now churning the reports out, before you're done with this, these other ones have come. So if a senator is able to understand the challenges of a specific county, there are counties that the PAC reports are not even tabled in the first place because maybe everyone is from the same party, maybe the other person has no say. And so those challenges, we're able to understand them from that level. Please, I beg that you're able to visit these counties as a Senate and also as individual senators. The other one is implementation of the laws as an oversight task. There are so many laws that we pass. The bulk of the laws that assemblies are passing are usually private members' bills because executive does not. And I wish that maybe Senate takes a study and see, other than the money bills, other than the usual budget bills and all that, what other laws are they generating from government business? You'll see the bulk of them are coming from the private members. And of the private members, how many are being implemented? You see? And so if you're able to oversight that as well, you're also helping Kenyans realize, because no private member bill is usually from the air. It's something that is pertinent to the public of that particular county. That also can be an oversight task that you can take up to check, and also to, as you're doing your oversight at the Senate level, you're able to follow through and see how is the executive performing its role in terms of legislative tasks that they're supposed to do. I thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much. All right. Thank you very much, Chair Representative Kaff. Now, I know the chair of IGRTC is also a person who has a lot of information, but we will ask you to kind of please summarize in the interest of time. We need to know what IGRTC, the major role you're playing in the unbundling and costing of the transferred functions to counties, what measures are in place to ensure smooth transition and monitor the implementation process with aim of addressing any expected challenges, and how the Senate can work with IGRTC and other stakeholders to ensure smooth and effective transfer of the corresponding resources. And finally, the disputes between governors and deputies have, all that. What is IGRTC role in addressing these disputes? What strategies would you recommend to ensure better collaboration and resolve conflicts between county executives? Thank you very much and welcome.
Honorable Chair of the session, the Right Honorable Speaker, and I was here when the clerk advised that we follow the protocols already established. So, distinguished Honorable Senators and participants, I will just take a few minutes first to answer what is more obvious because it's already been mentioned, and then I can elaborate later. First, to the Senate Committee on Devolution. The fact of the matter is that in identifying all the functions that were in identifying all the functions that were to be devolved, we also delineated and bundled, delineated and identified for transfer. We also, in the same rigor, and I say the same rigor because we constituted intergovernmental task teams where county governments were involved, COG was involved, State Department for Devolution was involved, the Office of Attorney General was involved, the Office of the President was involved, the Kenya Law Reform Commission was involved. We did identify what changes were required in law, and the whole exercise did identify some 96 pieces of legislation which needed to be changed to give proper effect to devolution and therefore eliminate all those elements of overlaps and cases of where there was contradiction between the Constitution and the laws. And on that basis, that whole government team, meaning whoever is in government and had something to contribute was involved, prepared an omnibus bill, which I believe is still being looked at by the Office of the Attorney General because of drafting and so forth. But we did prepare a bill, an omnibus bill, which identified what needs to be changed. And I will even state clearly that because we wanted to be very sure of what we were doing, we brought in such personalities as Justice Nyachai. We brought in others involved in the constitutional implementation like Professor Wanyande. We brought in the former PS Kebara, who is also a lawyer, to review not just the Gazette notices, but also that omnibus bill. So it is a job which was done quite thoroughly. And what I think we can do is agree that between us, we need to agree to follow up on that particular omnibus bill. But that's really what we did. And again, as I said, all parties, including the county governments, were involved. So, Honorable Madam Deputy Chair of that committee, please don't start afresh. Start from that particular bill, omnibus bill. Because as I say, everybody was there, Kenya Law Reform Commission, Office of the Attorney, everyone who really has something to contribute in law was involved in that process. The second point I would like to make is about, of course, the issue of transfer of functions. Yes, we gazetted. And in the summit, I think that's what was agreed, that's what is minuted, is that from July 2025, meaning the new financial year, we started the process of transfer of resources. Now, there are two options in terms of transfer of resources. As you know, in the initial activity of the IGRTC, involving all those other parties, including state departments and so on, we had identified that maybe in the range of 270 billion can be transferred to the counties through that through that process. But it was also at that point not lost on IGRTC that it cannot be, a fiat activity. It cannot be just the counties get that money outside the process which involves agreeing between the two levels, the process of handover of services being rendered now using that 270 billion, and the programs which are being implemented using that money. Therefore, from where we stand as IGRTC, from a technical professional point of view, since we are adopting a big bang approach to devolution, and given the paucity of resources that there are, and because we are not expecting additional resources from somewhere, from KRA, or from borrowing, or from development partners, to enlarge the national envelope, and because we don't want to disrupt the ongoing programs, it is going to be very critical that we go sector by sector, which is what we had done through that initial exercise. But we need to go sector by sector, looking at in health, what are they doing in health which needs to be moved to the county governments and at what stage? I say that because, for example, of course, the HIV, malaria, and other program, the county governments do parts of it, but most of the money is controlled by the ministry. So we need to know what is the ministry passing all the money to the county government because the county governments are involved, or is it parting with a bit of it and keeping a bit of it? That bit which they are keeping is, of course, the elements which we are saying need to be transferred. We need to identify them in the Ministry of Health and move them on that basis. Therefore, from where we stand as IGRTC, we see ourselves challenged to coordinate, again, a very inclusive participatory process involving both levels of government at the sector level to agree which resources are going to move, when, and the resources are not just about money. There is staff involved who are doing those particular functions. As you are very well know, you are honorable senators, in the case of the process we went through in the case of libraries. We have to do the same, virtually the same, to identify the staff who are either redundant or need to be moved. And if they are going to remain in the national government, of course, then the national government needs to determine what it will do with them. So we are committed as IGRTC in mobilizing both levels of government and other stakeholders, and especially the National Treasury, to be involved in this process of what I will not call costing as an accountant in my distant past, but what is really a budget rationalization at the sector level. That's what is needed to identify the movement of resources has to be done at the sector level. It cannot be by a fiat, because I know that is not practical, and if we try to go that way, I don't think we are going to move. And if I am wrong in that respect, or IGRTC is wrong, let us agree then by what mode we can move it. Because I don't see a situation where the national government at the moment is just going to say, because we have moved these functions, move 100 billion shillings to the county governments without identifying which programs are affected, which staff is affected, which projects are affected, and so forth. So that's really, for me, are the two key aspects I would like to talk in terms of unbundling of functions. In terms of monitoring implementation, we are monitoring what has happened, for example, with libraries, and we'll be giving a report to that effect, and we'll be doing that. But on a much more systematic basis, what we have agreed at the Senate, at the IBEC, and at the summit, is that because the summit is supposed to do an assessment of performance by both levels of government, but that has generally not happened. This year, we have organized ourselves as IGRTC. Again, we are constituted an intergovernmental multi-agency team to start on a comprehensive baseline assessment of performance of default functions at both levels of government. And we emphasize both levels of government because, again, that whole script in the, or mantra in the Article 6 about interdependence has also to be recognized. That if county governments are not delivering on agriculture, you cannot blame it exclusively on county governments. It is because the two levels have to work together to agree what they are going to deliver in agriculture and agree programs and what each one of the parties needs to do. And if bad policies are made at the center, wrong strategies are adopted at the center, if the capacity of county governments is not addressed, then of course the ministry has also a responsibility. So it is to that extent that we'd like to do that performance assessment. And on that, as I said, it's a baseline, comprehensive baseline a performance assessment. And what we'd want is that every 2-3 years, every sector, there's a report on every sector on how they are performing in terms of delivery of the devolved functions. And again, as I quite like emphasizing, there is no exclusivity in the performance of these functions because policy, legislation remains a national responsibility. Capacity building of the county governments also remains a responsibility of the national government. Therefore, even as we sometimes talk about counties failing, we cannot talk about counties failing without talking about the national institutions also failing.
Chair, kindly wind up.
Okay. My team had prepared quite an elaborate presentation. I've shared it with your secretariat. I would still want you to share it. Let me say 2 points as I conclude, Madam. First of all, in the areas I've just talked about, omnibus bill, the area of transfer of functions is going to be very intricate. It is about resources, so it's going to be necessarily political. There's no budget costing resource allocation process which is not political. We are going to need very active support of the Senate in terms of delivering, in terms of the rationalization of the budgets and the transfer of resources. We're going to need the support of the Senate also in this performance assessment because again, it is going also to be bringing very clear messages of what is not working in devolution and why it is not working at both levels of government. And therefore, the support of the Senate in terms of the political support is going to be very important. Finally, I think I would want to use this auspicious occasion, Honourable Speaker, to say there are 3 fundamental challenges to devolution, which we need all of us to think about and see how we are going to address them so that the quarrels do not continue ad infinitum. The first one is a fact that there is still a large constituency, a significant constituency of both political leaders and technical leaders in this country who do not embrace devolution. That is at the heart of it. And it is work which has to be done. It is homework which we all have. Those of us who believe in devolution, it is beyond technicalities. It's almost like a faith to be transferred to others. Because part of the problem, for example, therefore, between Senate and the National Assembly, of course, has to do with the resources. But if the National Assembly believed, and the part of the reason the governors do not get enough resources, but if everyone in this country who is a leader believed, and I've heard it from His Excellency the President, and the leader of the majority talked about it this morning, devolution has to work for this country to have the right speed of socioeconomic transformation. Because we are locked into that system. And therefore, once you believe that, then you know that whatever the counties require for them to perform well, you need to provide. But we are not there with many people. And part of it, which is the second issue, of course, partly it is understanding. There are people maybe who are even elected who have never bothered to look at the Constitution as far as devolution is concerned. And we have homework to do. And that is something really which I think, we all got to engage in. Finally, for the 2 levels of government, until they involve each other at strategic level in the sectors, at the point at which you are deciding this program is important as a ministry, at the point at which The county government is deciding in my area, this is what is going to be useful for developing agriculture. Until they engage each other at the strategic level, not at the level of coming to solve problems, not at the level of coming to present each other with crisis, but through sector forums that are robust, where policies are agreed on, where strategies are agreed on, then the quarrels between the two levels of government will continue, and unfortunately, the Kenyans will have to pay the price. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. What the panelists need to understand kindly is that we still need a few minutes for the plenary to engage. So, Madam PS, very, very briefly, if you can tell us what the State Department for Devolution, what role, central role in has a central role in coordinating the implementation of devolution. What are the main challenges faced in supporting county governments? And how can the Senate and other stakeholders collaborate with your department to strengthen devolution and intergovernmental relations? And following the gazettemen of functions to be transferred, what measures has the State Department for Devolution put in place to ensure counties are adequately supported in building the capacity to implement these functions effectively? And in line with the resolution to transfer the corresponding resources, how does the department plan to ensure the timely transfer of those resources and address any delays that may occur? What measures are being taken by the department and the National Treasury in the release of allocations to counties as per the county government's cash disbursement schedule that is approved by the Senate? Kindly, if you can sum it up so that we get engagement.
Chair of the session, the Speaker and honorable members, good afternoon. My name is Teresia Mbaika, PS State Department for Devolution in the Office of the Deputy President. And I will structure my remarks in two broad areas. And number one will be on the intergovernmental mechanisms. And number two will be on the legislation part of it, whereby you play a very critical role in this. Number one, in terms of legislation, I think we have conflicting interpretation of the laws by the different stakeholders in devolution. And the reason we find ourselves in problems of who is doing what is going where. The reason we have the county government having a very big problem with the COB, the auditor, because maybe the law is not clear on who is supposed to be doing what in the implementation of their mandate. So now we have a window to make things clear, and I like what Senator Muma has said. You have a very critical role when it comes to making laws. Of course, we have had incidences of amending the laws. For example, the intergovernmental law, which we were working on for a very long time, until the Senate took hold of it and ran with it. Now it is in Parliament, in the National Assembly. So we would really want to request the Senate, when it comes to lawmaking, you take a central role in ensuring that devolution is not affected by not just the pre-2010 laws which existed, but also the new laws we are making at the ministry's level, including the policies which are affecting implementation of devolution. So on that, we really want to have your support on this. But now that we have gazetted several functions which we are transferring to the counties, this is definitely going to call for a huge amendment of the many laws we have in existence. So any challenge we have, more than 10 years in devolution, all of us, we have learned where the problems are. So we have to be clear in the laws we make, and subsequent monitoring and evaluating how this is being implemented. Number two, and that also brings in the issue of the legislative agenda of devolution is not coordinated. We have, all of us, a responsibility around that. So on that one, we call upon the Senate to work very closely with us. If it means we give them resources to Senate to do it entirely, and we make things move, why not? Number two is on the intergovernmental mechanisms we have. From where I sit, I think they are very weak. We are not engaging adequately to ensure that we are working together as a government. Because my belief is there is no two governments, we have one nation, and we must make it work at all the levels. So when we work together in any process, it makes the work easier for all of us. I would expect we are not in the stalemate we are when it comes to the bill on the allocation of additional resources, because it means everybody is working in their silos until that last point when we have to be now together. What happens in the process of engagement? The issues around sharing of revenues, I've listened to Governor Sang talk about the different figures we have from different institutions who are very key in this particular subject. So you ask yourself, who is key in this? Which figure? What is the figure of National Treasury based on? What is the figure of COG based on? CRA, and all the other players we have. So it means we have a problem in that, and Chair AJRTC has spoken around the sector forum. That is one of the difficult spaces we have found ourselves into. And the reason we find ourselves in this mess we find ourselves into. Because for the last 2 years, we have been trying to operationalize. Just to be specific, only a few sector forums function, but they only meet when there's a crisis. It's unfortunate, because that is not what the law anticipates. So, but the good news is the Deputy President, who we have, Professor, is very keen on matters devolution. Is very keen on ensuring the sector forums are operationalized and issues discussed quarterly as anticipated. So, Council of Governors, you are a key player in this, and I want to call you out. We must make sure the sector forums work. As the convener with the ministries responsible, we have to take it as a responsibility. We should not wait until we have a problem for us to meet, to engage. Otherwise, so many other things will have gone wrong, and we cannot blame it on any other person. The other question, Session Chair, you have asked me on what the department is doing to ensure timely disbursement of resources to the counties. I may not conclusively respond to that question, because I wish we had also National Treasury here, because that is a discussion which is constant in our intergovernmental forums, starting with IBEC. I would say, of course, we have, all of us know of the many challenges we find ourselves into as a government, but for me, I thought devolution is a priority. As we prioritize the other pressing issues, like the debt issues we have to be deliberate on prioritizing resources for county governments. Otherwise, county governments which are not functional because of resources, entirely the whole government is not functioning. So National Treasury, there is a lot of commitment, and the Deputy President has intervened and convened the stakeholders when it comes to disbursement to county governments. And the agreement is, maybe now we are behind by a month or so, Mary, a month I think. So the National Treasury has assured the IBEC, the Deputy President, where we are domiciled, that getting to the next 2 months also will be on time. Disbursements will be made to the county government for them to function. Otherwise, maybe what Governor is not saying, they end up even borrowing in the banks to pay salaries. So that is a cost to the county government. So we are giving money for development, but they are using that money to pay interest to the banks. So, you know, those are the things we say so diplomatically. So I want to say it here. As Senate, we must be working with us. And you know we cannot force the National Treasury to also disburse money. But I know with your involvement, it is possible we do better. But we are still sticking to the commitment by the National Treasury. They're going to give us, county government, their monies to function. Maybe the last one, on capacity building issues and how prepared we are. Governor said the counties are ready to uptake the functions which are gazetted. But as a national government, we're also doing much to help our county government, specific with our program which we are carrying out on building capacities to the county government on the areas of finance, on areas of oversight, areas of public participation, and county assemblies, because our oversight role to our county government is weak, true or false? So we expect, together with the Senate, we can work on a mechanism of collaborating so that we do proper oversight by both the assemblies here and by Senate and of course ourselves. So we are complementing the preparedness by the county governments to uptake these functions, to help them build capacities. This is usually very continuous. They can call for us to help them. They can also have programs around capacity building to our county governments. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Yes. We are still trying to fit into the time available for us, so we'll adjust the program. We will keep the plenary questions pending. The panelists will be somewhere, and I hope you will still be patient to wait for whatever questions. We are going into the next session, which will be on the Senate oversight function, and I want to now invite, I will release you. I want to invite Senator Edwin Sifuna, the Senator for Nairobi, and the Deputy Senate Minority Whip to lead that session. Karibu, thank you very much.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Tuwapigie makofi wakati ambapo wanaondoka kikosi ambacho kimekuwa hapa. Mheshimiwa Peris Tobiko, asante sana. Mr. Speaker, I know we are really pressed for time. So we are going to hurry up the next session because it is a matter that is fairly familiar to all of us here. Honorable Speaker, let me start by saying my name is Edwin Sifuna. Thanks to you, they call me CBS these days. There is an initial that was added there. And there was an allegation that was made in the morning that Sifuna cannot be gentle. Honorable Speaker, I know the majority leader was addressing people outside this forum in attempts to make sure that he eliminates competition for other things, but now or in the future. But I want to guarantee you that I can. is, as you know, we are going to discuss the Senate Oversight Fund. I, as the Senator for Nairobi, have the largest delegation. And these are the only people who can bear witness to my gentle nature, Honorable Speaker. So I wanted to just recognize the Nairobi delegation, because there were some jitters, Honorable Speaker, about operationalization and inclusion of our nominated colleagues in the Senate Oversight Fund. And I'm sure they can bear me witness that we are working on well. We have a full complement, Honorable Speaker, of 7 senators from Nairobi. The Honorable Tabitha Mutinda, who we have sent to a very important mission abroad as a delegation. We pay business class tickets for Nairobi senators, Honorable Speaker. We have the Honorable Catherine Muma, who was here before me. The Honorable Veronica Maina, the former SG1, we call her SG1. Yes, she's a member of the Nairobi delegation. The Honorable Beth Siengo, the Honorable Betty Montet. You're not? But we saw some disbursements to your office. Okay, we will discuss that. The Honorable, the Honorable Karen Nyamu, who's also present here with us. And Honorable Speaker, thus far, I think that we need to thank the leadership of the Senate for your intervention in ensuring that we are the first Senate to actually implement this oversight fund. Because you petition for us in places that not all of us can go. And you have alluded to some of those meetings here earlier. We wish you well in those conversations that you have on the behalf of the entire Senate when some of us are not present. This fund has had a long journey, and for us to be taken through that journey, we are going to have 2 presentations here. I have been asked to ensure that the people who come to present here are as brief as possible so that members can have enough time during plenary to be able to share the experiences. But I can say from the beginning,